Every community has streets that are dividers.
Basically, you turned a neighborhood into a highway. Who does that?
This is Hoosick Street. This is a main street.
Once that bridge came, we became known as Hillside North.
We think of the bridge as the dividing line between North and South Troy. And so we came up with the name Uniting Line, just to be opposite of that.
When I'm doing public art, that is in a community that is not part of my own. I try really hard to connect with that community and to get their ideas so we can create a collaborative piece so it's mine and theirs.
Will this public art project suddenly reunite the two halves of the city? What it will do well is focus people's attention in a place where they haven't really paid attention in a long time.
Major funding for Bridging the Divide is made possible by Chet and Karen Opelka, the Troy Savings Bank Charitable Foundation, and by members of WMHT. Thank you.
This is the American dream of freedom on wheels.
The project started with an announcement in 1954. It was in the newspaper. They were going to do this. There were some iterations, earlier iterations. There were alternatives, but the big bang came in '69. The Hoosick Street Bridge had ballooned into this massive interchange between the proposed north-south arterial and the new Hoosick Street Bridge, all of which was going to be funded with the money from the National Highway and Defense Act. And that act poured so much money into automobile infrastructure. It made America a car nation, and not in a good way. And it changed everything about America. It changed the nature of cities, it changed the nature of suburbs, where people lived, how things were done, how we got places. And what happened in Troy was the Hoosick Street Bridge.
The partners in the Uniting Line project are the City of Troy, Collarworks, Tap Inc., and the Art Center of the Capital Region. We were provided an opportunity through Bloomberg Philanthropies to apply to their asphalt art project. And with that, we were looking for different locations in the city of Troy. Deputy Mayor Monica came to us and started a little meeting to say, how can we do this? And she recommended the Hoosick Street Bridge.
The Uniting Line and what the imagination of it ahead of it was the challenges associated with having this crazy bridge that divides part of the city from north to south.
Hoosick Street has always been not something we've been terribly proud of in the city. We're not going to reverse the decisions that were made a half a century ago. So we need to learn how to live with them, how to use them to our benefit. And the Uniting Line painting project was perfect in terms of getting people to slow down, start to notice the area, start to think about what else it could be.
The Hoosick Street Bridge underpass is huge. It's a big area. The groundwork there, the structure, the pillars, all were in a real need for change.
This project jumps the scale in that so many partners are involved, and it is in a very public space. So it really warrants the public input, and it will warrant scrutiny from the public as well. The Art Center brought on staff that spent time on the site to approach people and ask them questions and show them examples of public art. And people generally wanted to see something that was uplifting, something that was bright and colorful. We received some 16 proposals, and they were all wonderful from talented artists.
Jade Warwick's proposal really rose to the top and resonated with the community in such strong, positive ways.
One of the big things was that everyone was telling me to do it. I got emails, text, all my mentors and folks who I just have worked with, they were just pushing me to do it. I've always known since I was a kid that I wanted to paint big. I've always kind of hated painting small because I hate details. I got offered for a muraling gig from Tony Idasico with the Albany Center Gallery. Ever since doing that mural on Broadway with the girl and the sunflowers, I knew that this was for me. I think the best outcome would be just that the community feels seen and that they appreciate the art that was put on their block. When you go out into neighborhoods and community, that's not your space. Unfortunately, it's just not. It's not your space, it's not your wall, this isn't your neighborhood, unless it is. That's why I think the community engagement piece with this was so important. I do a lot of advocacy work for the community. Amplified Voices. It's an art and wellness program that I run with Eugene O'Neill, and we work with neighboring youth organizations and our partners to try to just uplift Black and brown voices of the youth through art. When I'm doing public art that is in a community that is not part of my own, I try really hard to connect with that community and to get their ideas so we can create a collaborative piece so it's mine and theirs. Because I'm very against art washing, which is just going into a neighborhood and throwing something up and not talking to them. That's very weird to me. What if people feel jarred because they're so used to their neighborhood being intruded on, by other folks, whether it's police, city officials, and then to see an artist come up and just throw something else up, that could be the straw that breaks the camel's back and the trust. I hope that people will feel seen and validated in the images I pick, since a lot of the images that I created are based off of conversations I've had in that neighborhood. So I'm hoping it brings about validation and beauty and art equity to the community.
The community there growing up was excellent. Family, and when I mean family, I mean neighbors looked out for each other, and you had a sense of pride. We didn't call it Hillside North back then, it was just 9th Street. You come down Hoosick Street, there were homes there was stores, there was a pizza place on the corner, there was cleaners, there was a laundromat. There was the movie theater right down the street. There were diners. We loved it. After coming back from college, I went into the Marine Corps. After I came back from overseas, that's when I noticed the change. Because the bridge was there and that was the way to get home from the airport. Once that bridge came, that's where they separated Troy. They actually separated Troy. And that's when it became Hillside North. We became known as Hillside North instead of just our own Troy, just part of being Troy. There's good change and then there's bad change, and that bridge has been a bad change, at least for Hillside North residents. Basically, you turned a neighborhood into a highway. Who does that? You don't put a highway in a community.
It was 26 years between the big article in the paper that announced it to everyone's shock and awe and the ribbon cutting on the bridge. This was not a good thing. It really didn't help with traffic. It really did, it made traffic worse because it took all of this interstate infrastructure and dumped it on Hoosick Street.
I was intuitively opposed to the bridge project. The basic proposition of these roads was, okay, we're going to take out strips of urban development, neighborhoods, tax base, in order to concentrate auto traffic in the midst of the most dense populations. That's kind of what I reacted to. I mean, I was going door to door with little flyers and talk to people and try to motivate some opposition to this.
Later on in the process, we brought suit.
As time went on, my idealism kind of waned, and I realized if they wanted to do something by eminent domain, the courts were not going to stop them.
The Green Island Bridge fell down. And they said, well, now we got to build it.
That occurred just before the litigation. So State DOT was using that in one sense to say, well, the Green Island Bridge is gone, so that's obviously not a viable alternative. So we must proceed with the Hoosick Street Bridge, which was just a false argument. Because what they should have done, and in fact did very rapidly, was rebuild the Green Island Bridge to a much larger specification.
And we were crushed after the lawsuit failed.
In a sense, it was inevitable what happened, and what was inevitable was a further deterioration and destruction of Troy. And that's what we were fighting. We believed that should not happen.
So what did it accomplish? All that disruption, and it made things worse. It made Hoosick Street a nightmare.
With the amount of traffic that comes up and down that hill, it's terrible. We started having accidents, and I don't mean like just car accidents. People were getting hit. And once that young girl got hit by a car, is where they figured out, oh, let's put a button where we can stop the traffic for at least 30 seconds, where everybody has to stop. But for almost 2-3 years, we were asking for that, and there was nothing. My future is to strengthen our neighborhood, just to bring a more positive light, and how to figure out how to slow some of that traffic down.
I've always painted my own murals, even the super large ones, so this is just like a new process for me. But I'm kind of excited because I get to sit back and watch it happen. I'll definitely be out there to help paint up on the lifts and doing some spray painting of the outlines and doing things like that.
There were about 20 artists on the payroll. We tried to bring in apprentices, master painters, supervisors, all of whom could use this experience as a way to get more skills, more contacts, learn from each other.
I started mural painting about 15 years ago, and mostly with residential work, and I've moved into commercial over the years. Our role is simply to manage the production of the art. So we have to make sure that the design reflects Jade's design. I like art. I see it as a transformative linguistic mechanism. Not everybody reads the same language, not everybody reads letters, not everybody speaks the same language, but everybody can view art. So I think this is a really powerful tool for people in this neighborhood, especially children, to be able to literally look up to these giant role models that are now part of the conversation of Hoosick Street.
So the challenges that we had was there was a 6-week delay in the actual start date, so that put us back quite a bit. We're hoping to have this done before the weather gets too cold.
There's a lot of safety things. We have some really big, heavy-duty equipment that is very dangerous if not operated properly. There's some power lines that we have to navigate. There's definitely high heights that we have to navigate.
Yeah, this is an interesting place here. Well, under the Hoosick Street Bridge basketball court, this is a safe haven. This is where kids come, play basketball, and their parents know that they're safe. There's a lot of gang violence, a lot of gun violence in the city of Troy, and if they come here, they have another chance to live. And that's how serious it is. If you let the media tell it, it's a bad area of Troy. Any place besides downtown is a bad area of Troy, and they don't understand Troy is Troy. It's still one Troy. But this area now is calm. It's calm. There's no action. You see they're trying to beautify it with the murals and all that, so it came a long way. There's a couple more things that we need to do, like put some lights up in here, because you just think about it. If you have lights in there and you can play until at least 11 o'clock, think about the crime rate. It would go down.
First thing that came to mind when I was viewing the underpass pillars was like, oh my God, this is huge. I was like, how am I gonna create characters that go across every single one? Because it's not easy to create characters and items like that. It's like you have to sit and think of faces and poses. And I do use references sometimes, but it's like, how do you create something that's completely new and something that's completely, just your own? The mural is basically showcasing BIPOC people in nature, surrounded by nature, which is calming and meditative for a lot of folks in the Black and Brown Indigenous communities. Just reveling in nature, enjoying and meditating in nature, while also just enjoying their passions. There's a lot of love for boxing and basketball were the two that stuck out to me the most. Two images that you actually see repeated throughout this design. It's like a couple basketball players and a couple of boxers is an ode to the folks who came out of Albany and became big basketball players or MMA or boxers.
Again, North Central, the people who grew up there, we have Kevin Pompey, who was a professional boxer, welterweight champ. He comes down and he trains the kids. We've had some great basketball players come out of there. Even my nephew, Emmanuel Maven, they called him Tiki, and he was like a step away from going into the NBA. There was Luther Rackley, who actually played in the NBA, played for the New York Knicks. Rosie Phillips, one of the best high school basketball players ever, and he grew up on 9th Street.
When I spoke to KP and a couple of other people, they said that that neighborhood has a lot of soul to it. And my interpretation of soul, which a lot of people kind of interpret, could be music. We have the parents. I think it's really important to show like Black fathers out there enjoying time with their kids, because it's something that happens, but unfortunately there's a stereotype that Black fathers aren't present. We got to showcase more art that has people of different tones of browns, because it not only showing light-skinned people in art really does affect the Black community, because you're kind of only seeing one tone as pretty and desirable. And so I want it to be very intentional about showing different shades of brown in this project. We need to amplify the voices of people, my people, who feel like they aren't being seen.
I'm a painter, illustrator, and sculptor. Jade, the artist, is my sister. The part I've been working on the most is the characters. I think it's important that people of color can see like themselves in these characters too. Each character in the mural, they each show a lot of diversity, but they're all like connected. And so I hope that when people see the mural, they get that sense that
We're all different, but we can all be connected and all have like this community that we all live in and want to help grow.
It's kind of insane that the smallest city that I've lived in has some of the most diversity of people and cultures. And I feel like that's not really reflected much in the public art here. So I just wanted to have that out there to give a shout out to, you know, folks of color to see like, hey, you're seen, you're validated. Here you are, 40 feet high. You can't be missed. So it's interesting because I'm taking a step back, kind of just watching others do my work.
Having been in Troy and watching this thing being just transformed, the underpass transformed, I took this opportunity to it was just a moment of why not.
First picture I took when I seen them working over there. And then I come here to catch the bus and I seen the girls, I think she was boxing. And I took a picture of it and I put it on Facebook and it really made me feel better. Really could see people doing something positive for Troy.
Dragonfly, we gotta add some open leaves and then correct some petals to make them a little more tulipy. And the bottoms and it's done. We're so close, we're close.
This is a great day as we celebrate the completion of the Gems of Troy, the first phase of the Uniting Line Public Art Project.
After these murals have been painted, and my goodness, it's changed, not only made it colorful and happy and people smile, but it seems to have changed the energy a bit, much more positive. How can all that fun and color like not impact people? It did us. We loved it, enjoyed it as soon as we were painting it, and the transformation.
It's like when you put nice art somewhere, people are like, I want to go there, I want to invest in this place. This place feels like home, or this place feels comfortable for me. So therefore that art, putting nice big murals up actually has a domino effect of having people start paying attention a little bit more to, I don't know, some neighborhoods that may be neglected.
We know that the mural is only the beginning of this project, and I think that the public could say, you know, it's just paint. How do you think paint is going to change anything? And we've known that since the beginning. Our very first grant application, I called the mural a clarion call to the community, to that area. None of us have any one vision of what should happen under the Hoosick Bridge because we want to wait for the community to tell us what it would be. We are actually surveying there right now to get some very early impressions around what would people want to do under the bridge. And then there's the hope for how that physical space can be improved. Roadways, the sidewalks, seating areas, lighting. I think what we'll end up doing is lighting it first to create more public safety down there.
We're still gathering input, but we do know that we want to extend the riverfront walkway that starts in the downtown area by the old City Hall site. We've got plans drawn to extend that up to the Hoosick Street Bridge in the next phase. And what that'll do is that'll be nice because it'll create a walkway between North Central and downtown. Hoosick Street is a very automobile-centric piece of infrastructure at the expense of pedestrians, bikes. So they're coming off the bridge sometimes at speeds in excess of 50 miles an hour. So we're talking with DOT on ways that we might bring that speed down sooner before people get into the city.
I think people appreciate what was there. We can correct what was bad about it by reinvestment in various ways. And I'm glad we can take advantage of what's still left.
So there's only like a few of us in the Hillside North residents who's been there for quite a few years. You have a lot of new renters and couple homeowners. It's not the same pride, it's not the same family type, but it's getting better. As far as the mural coming up on all those stands from the bridge, that is super. It makes you really start to feel part of a community. Somebody else cares about how we are coming up or raising our children down here, so we take a sense of pride in that. People need to come see it, and then they'll see that North Central is striving and strong.
Major funding for Bridging the Divide is made possible by Chet and Karen Opelka, the Troy Savings Bank Charitable Foundation, and by members of WMHT. Thank you.